some patients come in with chronic headaches and go, you know, when I stopped eating this, all the headaches that I had, I stopped. And I had other patients coming in going, you know, when I stopped lying on my stomach at night, my headache stopped. So there was a postural aspect. There was a nutritional aspect. When I moved out of a house, my headache stopped. So there was an environmental aspect, you know, and so on. And so it built this whole stress model, which, as I say, if you've got an open mind, it's a very exciting thing to learn how health interrelates.
Okay, now, earlier on, you clarified the word holistic, and I was glad you did that. Now I want you to do it again with the word stress, because I think the word stress has multiple meanings, and people probably interpret it differently from each other. So seeing as you wrote a book on stress, why don't you start with the definition?
Yeah, well, most people would acknowledge that stress, they're affected by stress. And hey, is that an understatement in this modern world? But even before the pandemic, most people would have acknowledged that. And they would also acknowledge that it doesn't have a positive impact on their health. Not all stress is bad. Exercise is a good example of stress. Fasting is another good example of a good stress. But let's focus on those stressors that compromise health. And so to that effect, I define a stress as anything that has the potential to compromise your immune system and promote chronic inflammation, because chronic inflammation is the common denominator in all diseases. So anything in life that compromises your immune system and promotes chronic inflammation is a stressor. So for the last 35 plus years, I've had a 5 stressor model. And those 5 stressors, because if you're going to deal with stress, it helps to identify them and minimize them. So if you've got to identify and minimize a stress, it helps to know what that stress is. So I've identified a 5 stressor model, and those 5 stressors are emotional, which most people identify as stress, nutritional, postural, environmental, and dental stress. So emotional, environmental, nutritional, postural, and dental stress. Everybody nods their head until I get to the last one, dental stress. And they think, yeah, I'm with you there, but what's this dental stress business? And I go, look, I include dental stress for 2 reasons. One, I've been a holistic dentist for 40 years, so I feel reasonably well qualified to comment on it. And 2, I include it for anybody with a mouth who is interested in their health, but has never fully connected the two. And there are many connections. For example, it's the gateway to the digestive tract. So if you think chewing your food is an important part, and you don't have to think about it, chewing your food is an important part of the digestive process.
Not everybody understands that.
Not everybody understands that. And I know one of your principles are don't drink your calories. And I think that is such an important point for so many reasons. You know, nutrient-dense foods usually require chewing. And whether we're talking about vegetables or meats, nutrient-dense foods require chewing. And interestingly, there's even been some research coming out of Sydney University earlier this year, which linked chewing ability to cognitive function, how your brain functions and develops.
Wow.
So yeah, very interesting. So it's the gateway to the digestive tract. It's also the gateway to the respiratory tract. So literally the size and shape of your mouth determines the size and shape of your upper airway. And we have, over millions of years, evolved to have 32 teeth, 16 teeth on top, 16 teeth on the bottom, through and in perfect alignment. And if you have enough room for that, then you will have more room in your sinuses, nasal passages, pharynx, more room for your tongue. So a narrow jaw means you have a narrow upper airway. And if you have a narrow upper airway, you are predisposed to dysfunctional breathing and sleep disordered breathing conditions. So when I ask, and I can tell you now, if I've asked 1,000 people this question in the last few months, how many people have all 32 of their teeth through and in perfect alignment, I think the number would be less than 5%. So 95% of us don't have enough room for all of the teeth we have evolved to have. So we're setting ourselves up for respiratory and sleep disordered breathing conditions. So that's another part of dental stress.